I'm the host, I'm Martin Vos.
I'm Christos Karagiannis.
My name is Tervel Lombo.
And my name is Lois van Dijk.
And and for now we're gonna begin with our discussion for organizational structures. All of us, I think, did traditional companies. Did any of them mention anything about working from 9 to 5?
Unfortunately, yes, they did. I spoke to a woman in a very hierarchical traditional company at a municipality, actually. And her work day usually starts not at 9, but at 8. So a bit earlier, and it usually lasts till around 5, 6. She prefers it away because it gives her structure in her day. She knows when she's off, she knows when she has to work, etc. And she can really leave her work behind at the end of the day. She feels like it. And she really likes that. But I've heard from some other people that they prefer actually more flexible hours.
That's very interesting. I visited Hayes. It's a recruitment company that's located in Amsterdam, but they also have a few different locations in the Netherlands. And they are the typical 9 to 5 company. Sometimes people start a little sooner than 9, but I would say that's usually 9 to 5. And yeah, it's very traditional. There's not really much to say.
The company, though, that I visited is in Colombia. It's named Real Tours Colombia. It has a flat structure. So it's a really small company run basically by 2 people. Her, which is the CEO, and her husband, with a really small amount of people that work in all departments by providing free tours for the people. So by the time the company got set up, it was only 2 people. Her husband was doing the actual tours and her was in charge of the financial and everything. So the company doesn't really have a hierarchy. Everybody is putting the best of their effort and they're getting rewarded according to that.
Do you feel like that maybe also depends on talent? So some people are better at some stuff, so that's the stuff they take on, and other people...
Yes, exactly. The people that they're better with financing, they take that part, and the people that they're better with actually setting up the tours or setting up the website or answering to the people that they have questions, they take the communication department. And basically her and her husband are in charge of everything, so they oversee the whole procedure.
Okay.
And they try their best. At the moment, in TripAdvisor, they're the best tour company in Medellin. They have 5,358 5-star reviews. So apparently they're doing a great job as they are.
Do they then actually have names as titles, or do they just use their own name and do whatever they can for the company? Because you often see a title as financial advisor or something like that.
Yeah, titles don't exist. Everybody tries to keep that friend mentality in between the company. So everybody tries to be friends with everybody else, and they're trying to put their best input on which field they're working. So it's a pretty all-around company. Her husband is in charge mostly of the tours, of organizing the tours, and he's in charge of more of the financial stuff and of the structure of the company.
This also sounds a lot like holacracy. There's an overall structure and an overall team, but small working teams inside. Yeah,
but it's not really small teams because everybody has a voice. If somebody has a better idea than her or her husband, it's free to say, and it will get implemented immediately without getting to pass any level. By the time, everybody has his own voice, and they're trying to actually treat everybody equally without saying, I am in charge of it and you are in charge of that. They're trying their best to have a really friendly environment inside the company.
Oh, that's good to hear. A very friendly structure, indeed.
I'm actually curious, how do people put their ideas? Do they have a weekly meeting, or...?
They have an office in Medellin. The main people that are working there, they're always in the office, and her husband is always around the city. So she goes there, they talk with the employees. So if somebody has an idea, it gets inside the company. It's easy to communicate because there is not a lot of people. It's 8 people in the whole company, so it's very easy to communicate in between. They try to keep relationships very not completely not completely professional. So there's not a lot of emails going in between. It's more about communication and conversation in between of them.
Okay,
that's very interesting.
Okay. For another part in organizational structure, In what way would you think it is shifting towards different types of work? For example, work now in traditional sectors tend to be more input and output based. Has any of your companies thought about how are we shifting from input to output based to putting in more value into work? So not looking at how many hours you spend at work, but how much time do you create something that is truly valuable.
Yeah.
Well, not really about value, but about different types of work. I looked into digital nomad actually because I was really interested in what that would actually entail. How would you do that? Because I just can't imagine it. So I've spoken to someone who I think would classify as a digital nomad. She works for Stanford University. And she used to work here in the Netherlands for that university, and now she has actually moved to the US. But her digital nomacy, I think, is that she can work anywhere she wants to. She can pick her own projects as well. So she's not really a digital nomad, so she doesn't work for different companies all the time, but she can pick what she works on, and she can pick when she does it, where she does it, etc. And she really needed that flexibility, so that was very valuable for her at that time.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's very interesting. Yeah, I know with Hayes, the company itself is very traditional in the sense that it started in the UK, and till this day, all the locations in the UK are still very much manager says what happens, and every other branch follows suit. But in the Netherlands, slowly, especially in Amsterdam, the marketing department has sort of slowly started to go more flatter. They want their people to pitch more creative and innovative ideas. And what they try to do with Hayes right now is there's a lot of recruitment companies. There's Tempo Team, there's Young Capital, and there's a lot of competition. So what Hayes does to add value to their company is when you don't have to what's the word called? You don't have to be without a job.
Unemployed.
You don't have to be unemployed to come to them. You can have a job, but you can maybe suffer from depression. And they allow you to talk with psychologists in their company. They have their own company psychologists. Mm-hmm. They have all kinds of other people that work there besides just recruitment. So they really want to make sure that when you come to them, it's not just for a job, but it's for anything in your life. You know, they can help you improve your life.
Oh, that's really nice.
And that's how they try to add value to the recruitment.
That's
okay. Well, for recruitment and nurturing talent, we'll come to that later. Mm-hmm. Now, for the company that I visited, that's more in the educational sector. Mm-hmm. It's a school just above HBO level, and out there, they're really thinking about how to create value, because they have to restructure all their educational programs. Because if you're shifting towards from input to output to more valuable, how are you going to do that for the people that I'm going to have to say this good in ethical terms, but less educated and have more strains on changing their behavior. That's harder for them to do, it's a question that still remains unanswered, because on some terms you have to say, okay, they can't make the shift on the really lower levels, like level 1 and 2, but at level 4 there might be some potential within them. And that's how they value their that's how they think about adding more value to their programs.
Mm-hmm.
In my case, in the company that I interviewed, they add more value to their company by hearing every employee's opinion about it. So they have an open ear. It's a transparent communication. So they're actually trying to hear what their employees have to say about it, and they try to implement it inside the actual business that they have. So I don't think, like, the answer, exactly as you said, is a bit not clear. It wasn't really answered what they do and how they put the input and the output.
Okay.
When I asked the person I interviewed at the municipality how they added value there, they didn't. She didn't really understand, I think my question, but she said they just had to do what they had to do, and that's kind of where it stopped. Because you get led, of course, by a committee, and they kind of make the guidelines. So they discuss everything, they make the guidelines, they say what's happening, and then just the people working there, they have to do it. So there's no really added value there, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think the ministry really depends on they have to have people that tell you what to do, because it's leading the country, you know. I don't know how much freedom they can really give you. But that's very interesting. Yeah.
Perhaps that's a nice way of introducing the next subject, which is organizational culture. If you, for each company, in what way do you think it's flexible to move to all kinds of changes into work? So, Lois, starting with your company.
Yeah, my company, so the municipality, it's not flexible at all. It has a very strict way of going about it, and has been there for like over several years. And that's just the way they do it, and they kind of have to, because, you know, it's government, etc. But it's not very flexible. You can't come up with your own ideas. You can't change things up very easily. And that's the person I interviewed. She said that she kind of missed that, because she used to have that in her previous place of employment, where she could really pitch her own ideas, come up with stuff. And here she can't, but she said she can actually innovate in how everything gets done. So she tries to implement new ways of doing her work rather than new projects or new ideas.
That's very interesting. Yeah, with me, like I mentioned previously, Hayes is really a company that's still trying to find their identity. Right now, there are people that think they know what's best for the company, which is the traditional way. But we've already noticed, I think all of us have noticed by now, that for the future, keeping everything corporate is not the way to do. You need to focus, whether it's on environment, whether it's on your employees themselves, or whether it's on innovation. I think those three aspects are something that any company will have to implement some way or form. And Hayes is slowly starting to realize that. They have little things when it comes to motivation. For example, they're salesmen. So people, recruiters, call people to be like, hey, you want to come for a cup of coffee? We can discuss recruitment. And then it's like this sort of Wall Street almost scene, where it's just a row of people with computers and phones, and they're just all calling, hoping that one person is going to accept the call and be like, okay, yeah, I would love to come for a cup of coffee, which by itself is a little weird, because the location in Amsterdam is not located in a nice place if you don't have a car. If you want to get there, I personally have to travel to Duivendrecht, which is, for the people that don't know, south of Amsterdam. And then you have to take another bus as well to get there, and then you need another like 10-12 minute walk to get to the location. So it's pretty remote. It's not really nice. So I don't know how they exactly always convince people to come there.
It's not really just stop by for coffee.
Exactly.
Perhaps it's not fit for your or our target audience.
I would think so, yeah. So the motivation aspect in that is if a recruiter manages to get a person to come for a conversation, there's a bell at the back of the room, which they sort of rung like this, again, Wall Street-esque aspect, that they just made a call and sold some stocks. You know, for example, that's sort of the scene that I'm trying to draw. So they ring the bell, and then all of the departments on that floor, because Hayes only has one floor in that building, they cheer, they're happy, you know, everyone has their like 1 minute of happiness, and then it's back to work.
That's really nice.
Yeah, it's a nice boost.
That's very boosting. I mean, you've accomplished something which is apparently pretty hard, and everyone can know it, and everyone can share in the joy of having success.
But I think what Hayes struggles with as well is that when you look at the recruitment department, they are very much, everyone is on themselves. Like, it's very individualistic. Like, you want to sell as much as possible, or you want to get as many people as possible to visit you, because your pay depends on how many people you manage to recruit.
Okay.
But when you work in a marketing department, it's all about teamwork. The social media part of the marketing has to work together with the digital media. So the people that build the websites need to know what they want to expect exactly, and how it should look. And that's all collaboration. So it's very interesting to see in Hayes that the departments themselves have different cultures, and also their different motivations for what they do and how they do it. So I think that's very interesting about Hayes.
In my case, the main motivation is to try to get people's opinions after the tour. So every tour is for free, and the people are paying after the tour accordingly to how much they liked the tour or they didn't like the tour. They try to go in a more different way than every other tour guide company. They're not promoting the same things like the historical sites or the famous Narcos tour in Colombia, which is becoming a really thing in Colombia. Like everybody's doing it. They try to go more in the nature, try to explore different things. So the department is trying to come up with ideas of tours that they're not so much like people are not so used to them. It's something different and they are able to get more. So in that sense, like the whole department is flexible, completely flexible. So they're jumping from one position to the other. They're trying to do the best. Everything is getting run through the website. So it's not really a communication with the people over the phone, over something. Is more before the tour via email, and by the time the tour is done, is mostly via talking to the people, actually collecting the experience they actually had with the company. And they're trying their best in that sense to expand and trying to add more and trying to put more things into their company, so more tours, and they're trying to open the communication line so they can actually talk with people. And it's a bit difficult because the laws for the tours are changing, so they're trying to adjust their company to the actual law structure of Colombia.
Do you think the reason why they also don't want to do those Narcos tours is because they also realize that those are like trends, and
exactly
after a year or two they're already dead?
It's really trends, and in Colombia it's really popular at the moment, those trends, to go see the ghetto area, to go see that when that thing doesn't really exist. It exists in Colombia, but it's like in every other country, in every other city, so it's not the main attraction. Colombia has a huge history, for example, and a huge nature to see, like things that in Europe or in other countries you're not really able to see.
Doesn't Colombia have like the biggest rainforest?
Yeah, Colombia has the biggest rainforest, and it has more than 80% of the world's fruits. Yeah. So there is fruits that you can find in Colombia that you cannot find everywhere else. So it's pretty interesting when you go on a tour, to get inside the rainforest and see things that you wouldn't see by yourself or you wouldn't recognize by yourself. So that's their main focus, to try to get the bad picture out of the Colombia of being the narcos capital, of being this, of being that. They're trying to shift that into something very beautiful, as Colombia as a country with pure history and pure nature for people to visit.
Wow, that's actually a very ambitious point towards the traveling too.
Yes, and they're succeeding at the moment. It's growing like pretty fast. Their company started 4 years ago and there were 2 people. Now it's 7 people. Everything is booked ahead 5 months.
Oh wow!
So you're not able, like if you want now to book with them a tour, you're not able because they're booked 5 months ahead and they're booked all year after. Like I was talking to them and she was saying to me that it's really difficult for her to get a holiday or to do something because they're constantly booked. And her husband is from Colombia, is born and raised there, so he's the guy who is in charge of the whole thing, of where the tours are, what to show to the people, where to take them. So it's pretty difficult for them, but they're trying their best, like to promote the actual country of Colombia.
Okay, yeah. For the company that I visited, or more let's say the school, for them it's really hard to think about change in their company. As I already mentioned, for schools they need to rethink their programs, and because it's such a big organization also, they have to complement every single detail, but also because it affects multiple people in a variety of different ways. So also in that way they don't really know in what way they're gonna change it yet, but they are trying, but towards what that destination is still unclear.
I think we have the same case in that scenario. Yeah. Should we talk a little bit about the co-working space before we go to the next category? Because I don't know if we mentioned it a little bit, but for our co-working space we visited Utrecht Inc. They have a flat structure, and we interviewed.
I forgot his name, to be honest, but we're gonna we will mention his name at the end of the podcast again, just to make sure. and he also had a lot to say about how companies or startups, because that's what they do at Utrecht, they just train and say what startups should actually do. And with if I remember correctly what he said, then he mentioned teams are the most important aspect of having a successful business, and therefore you should value the human connection of it, and having small teams to make quick decisions can really make your process in change much faster.
Yeah, he had been working most of his life in the corporate structures, and
he wanted to escape that.
Yeah,
he wanted
really
something new.
Exactly, yeah, he really wanted to escape it. And what he found in Utrecht Inc. was not just the freedom to work how you want to work, but it's just in general also the decision making. Like Martin mentioned, the decision making progress is so different compared to the corporate structure, because you have to wait for your boss to check with their boss, who maybe has to check their boss to see if it's okay, if this new idea can be implemented. Meanwhile, in Utrecht Inc., they have, I believe they have one meeting each week. And that meeting lasts 40 minutes, I believe.
Yeah, about 40 minutes.
Around 40 minutes, and that's the only meeting for that week. And so Utrecht Inc. works with 5 people, I believe, from the top of my head. And they're actually in the top 10 incubators of the world.
The fourth, if I remember correctly, the fourth of the third is in Delft.
Yeah, the other one is Delft. So there are 2 Dutch incubators, but
12 people or 10 people they are in Delft, when in Utrecht is 5, so it makes it a great accomplishment for them.
Yeah, it's a lot bigger.
Like the smaller the company, the more agile it is.
Exactly. Yeah.
Also, I remember he talked about ideas, that everybody can have a great idea, and great ideas are always there, and they're going to continue recycling. The problem is how efficient you are while you're doing your work, not the ideas you have, because ideas, they're going to be around you, but if you're not efficient during producing the idea, is not going to work. And it's not also, if I remember correctly, he said that it's not about the 9 to 5 working schedule, that in that time you put the most amount of work. It's about, at the end of the day, at the end of the project, how is the project going. So it's more about like how much you put into the actual project rather than how much you put in your working hours.
Yeah, he was talking about that their value, that the working times don't display your value anymore. Your value as a person should not be 9 to 5. If you want to work at it at home, you should be able to work from it at home.
I feel like you're hearing that like way more often than you used to, that you're getting paid actually project based. So for everything you deliver, there's a certain amount of pay instead of like the hours you put in, because there are actually so many differences in how productive people are. Some people can do their project in a week, some people it takes 2 months, and they have the same result. So it doesn't really matter, but your pay gets based off of that kind of.
I also think it was very interesting when he mentioned about how companies are slowly starting to realize that it used to be that normal people would be the target for big companies.
The strange people.
But now it's turned to the strange people.
Try to keep the strange people inside the company in order for them to keep the diversity going. To don't have the same people in the same room, have different people, different personalities, so they can clash and they can come up with ideas.
I think,
especially like in a creative environment, you need this.
Because what we see with what we see at Utrecht Inc. Is that he has a lot of ideas on how companies can work, but but if we can relate it to our companies and say what are the pros and cons of it, what would you mention, and just keep it at one big con and one big pro.
When you compare the two, you mean?
Yeah, when you could compare the two in terms of successfulness for the future of work.
Yeah, I think pro when comparing the two is for my company, right? From my perspective.
Yeah, for your perspective. Yes.
From my perspective, I would say that a pro for Hayes is the fact that because they're not flat and because they have been around for so long compared to Utrecht Inc. Utrecht Inc. has been around for maybe, what was it, 10 years or so, or less? No, even less than 10 years. Yeah. So they're not even 10 years around. So what Hayes has is not only the value and experience, but they're active in over 30 countries.
So for the pros and cons, if you can relate it to the yellow world, the green world, the red world, and the blue world, how would you say that those are the pros and cons of the company? I would give an example just beforehand to showcase it. For the education, for the educational school that I interviewed somebody with, well, it's clear that you have a lot of interviews there, and that that it takes a lot of time to actually make a decision. That's the weakness of it. But once the decision is made, then it has a big impact, and it can also be implemented quickly because everybody can identify themselves with it. So that's really related to the blue world also.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I feel like in governments in general, it's usually more blue world. It's more corporate. It has a very set structure of work, which can be very nice because everyone knows what they're doing, etc. But I also feel like it fits in with the green and the yellow world really well, because they try to care about the people living in the municipality, to try to keep them in mind. They're doing everything for them, and they try to be more environmentally friendly as well. So I feel like it's a bit of a mix.
Well, I would say the yellow world is something more distant for future.
I feel like that's NGOs. NGOs, for example. NGOs, charities, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, okay. I would say so, but I would definitely not relate it to my the school that I interviewed.
No,
I wouldn't do that at all. But
mine
NGOs, I would agree.
I wouldn't say that mine is like a totally green world or totally yellow. No, but I feel like they do have the kind of purpose-driven factor in their company. So they try to have some purpose, they try to keep people and the environment, etc. in mind, but they are still a blue company in how they operate.
For my company, they're trying to participate more in the green world. So they try to have a corporate social responsibility and a strong social purpose. So that's their base for it. That's why they try their best to belong to the green world, because they really believe in sustainability. So, but the more that the company is growing, that might be like a con, that the more that the company is growing, is difficult to keep that structure. And it's difficult to be in that point, that everything is sustainable, everything has like a strong social purpose. It might drift a bit away.
For me, it's very basic. It's Hayes. They're known really primarily as a blue world group, and I think, as I mentioned before, there's a clash in the structure itself where there's one side that really wants to stick with the blue world, but like I mentioned before, the sort of special thing that Hayes has with the psychologists, for example, the added value that they do to the company, I think they're slowly realizing that if they go more people-focused, yellow world, they have a higher chance of succeeding in the future. So although they're currently blue world, and they might even stay so if they don't make a big change in the future, specifically from the branches in the UK, they'll probably stay blue world, but they actually constantly tell me how annoyed they are that they have to still use this old system of the hierarchy and how it's still so very corporate. Meanwhile, they really want to push more people-centric ideas and also the innovation itself.
So in what way do you think that they would hire new people?
In my case, because it's a tour company, you have to know a lot of languages. The more you know, the better it is. The base for it is English and Spanish. Then the problem solving. A person during the tour might not feel good, might not like this. How you can really talk it out without creating stress and drama for the whole group, so you can have a positive attitude towards the company.
You need a lot of people skills.
Exactly. And then I would say communication skills, it's very important for...
I've always wondered, because with me, for Hayes personally, it's more the case with the fact that they don't really care anymore about school. They really just care about what your motivations are, what do you do in your daily life.
The person I interviewed, she was telling me that when she applied for the job there, it really was about what did you do, what was... actually your title at your previous job. Can you show us some work you've done, some projects, etc.
Oh,
They really
that's
wanted
a lot about experience. Yeah.
yeah, a lot on experience and on references, etc. They talked a lot to previous employers, that kind of stuff, and barely anything on personality or that kind of thing.
We're already approaching the end of this podcast. So, in what? So, for each of us has a bit of an ending note.
My name is Christos Karagiannis and this is my individual interview. After conducting the personality test, the 16 personality and the future world test, I found out that I am a mediator and that I belong in the red world. The skills that I'd say that fit my personality the most is the communicating skills. I really love to communicate with people, talking, exchanging opinion and extracting information from them while I'm talking. I don't have a lot of experience in that part. I've worked sometimes as a PR in some parties and in some other things, but I would really like to exercise it more and actually get better at this. Some of the strengths that I have in relation to structure, culture, leadership and motivation is that I'm a highly motivated person. I really love to do something that I want to do and I put a lot of passion into it. And when it comes to communicating and talking a lot with people, I believe that it's a pretty strong aspect of my personality. Furthermore, I really like to work abroad. I appreciate different cultures. I left my home when I was 17 and now I'm 21. I'm 4 years in the Netherlands and I'm striving to go even further. I don't have like an end purpose to where I want to go, but I would really like to travel the most of my life. My personal purpose is to eventually become good at the thing I'm doing, to become somebody that is recognized, somebody that is remembered. Some of the key preferences in relation to structure, culture and diversity for the type of the organization that I believe it fits me the best is that I prefer a flat structure organization. I prefer a company which is small, which I'm able to say my opinion, which I know that my opinion is going to be heard by other people and that I'm going to be taken seriously. Some expectations that I have is that I really want to be happy where I am. I really want to work at a place and go passionate every day, every single day, be there and be happy that I'm working in that place, that I'm putting my energy and actually being recognized about it. I have some prior work experiences as a designer in some companies, and also I've worked in more generic jobs like in restaurants, as a server, behind the kitchen. But I would really like more to get involved with communicating. I would really love to have a PR job somewhere that I can practice my skills, that I can being able to talk more to people, more to customers and be more in touch with the actual people of the company. The companies that I would like to approach for my work placement, I don't really know exactly, like I cannot name 3 exact companies, but I can say that I want something small, a startup, flat structure, and with the ability of my voice being able to heard, that I don't have to get through a lot of layers of hierarchy in order for my opinion and my idea to arrive to the top level, so then it actually gets into work. So I would prefer something small, something that I can really participate and put a lot of my work inside it and being able to be recognized for it. Some of my dreams are that I really want to succeed. I want to do something that makes me happy, that motivates me to wake up and continue doing what I'm doing. My biggest fear, I would say, is living a life that I'm compromised, that I'm doing something that I don't really believe in, and that I'm actually wasting my time on something that only consumes my day without giving anything back to me.
My name is Lois van Dijk and I did the PwC test and the 16 personalities test. I ended up being an entrepreneur and being part of the green world, and I think that really fits me well because I like to tackle problems as they come at me and I'm very purpose driven. I think that's also my strength. I can improvise really well and I'm very energetic, I would say. I would like some diversity in my work environment because of that, because I'm not a 9-to-5 person. I wouldn't be good at a job where the work is the same every day. And I think that also would be somewhere abroad, so not in the Netherlands. In relation to the company culture, I would like a very diverse company culture. I'd like an international company with a lot of cultures in the employees, and a very global company, because I think globalization is everywhere around us and we need to keep up to date. I don't have any work experience in a very global company yet, but I'd like to do my work placement in a company maybe in the Netherlands, as I'm moving abroad for my minor, and I would like a very purpose-driven company as well. So I was thinking of approaching Interrail or United Wardrobe or an NGO. I'm not sure which one yet, but maybe Greenpeace or the United Nations.
We're now going to discuss the professional profile of Tervel. Tervel, can you tell us something about that?
Yes, so I did 2 personality tests. One is the 16 personalities test, where I became a mediator, and the other personality test is the workforce of the future of PwC, which I ended up in the yellow world. Both of the tests describe me well. For when it comes to the future of work, I believe that I would end up in the yellow world, and I hope that most companies go towards the yellow world. And when it comes to being a mediator, the strengths and weaknesses described, like being idealistic, seeking and valuing harmony in your life, and being open-minded and flexible, is something that perfectly describes me, not just in my personal life, but also in my work life. Around these skills, I haven't had too much work experience besides simply having the basics of teamwork that you have in most jobs. But most of my jobs thus far have been pretty basic. And what I value in work is truly being able to work together with other people, being open-minded, and being flexible.
Okay, that seems like you have the picture of your personal profile quite ready. Would you like to have some diversity within your work placement?
Yes, I would love to have diversity, not just with the people who I work with, because I love exploring different cultures in the world, but also having diversity itself with your day-to-day job would be interesting for me. I don't really like the 9-to-5 schedule. I like being able to decide when I'm able to work on something and what it is. And I like if it is something different, maybe every week or every month, doesn't really matter too much to me. And I'm also very interested in working abroad in the future. I think that one day I'll come back to the Netherlands for living here permanently. But while I'm still young, I want to be able to explore the world when I'm 20 and 30.
Okay. And can you tell us something about your organizational preferences?
Yes, so when it comes to my personal purpose in work, I really want to be able to work for a company that, for me, it's very important that I'm able to decide what I'm able to do. I don't really see myself working a 9-to-5 job with any corporate company in the future. I just want to be able to sort of be my own boss when it comes to that. But when looking at my key preferences for the type of organizations that match my purpose and my profile, I think I'll be looking mostly at flat structures with a culture that's not only very diverse but also flexible. I want to have a lot of diversity in it, like I mentioned, and I don't care where it is, as long as it's something different than right here. When it comes to my expectations, expectations for my internship is that I'm not going to like it at all because it's very corporate. But I think that it's something that I have to go through no matter what, just so I understand the corporate side of things as well, even if I don't want to work there in the future. And the 3 companies that I approached for my work placement were Hayes Recruitment in Amsterdam, Guerrilla Games in Amsterdam, and Sony actually in The Hague. And I did that because they're all 3 companies that have a quite hierarchical structure, except for maybe Guerrilla Games that's a little bit flatter. But I think that they were important organizations that not only interest my personal preferences and personal hobbies, but they're also organizations that I know that I will be able to learn from a lot. I eventually got Hayes as my internship. And when it comes to my dreams and fears for the future, my dream is to be able to be my own independent person and work as my own boss. And my fears are that I might end up in a corporate job. So Martin, can you tell us a little bit about your professional profile?
Yes, for my personal profile, I did 2 personality tests. One was from PwC, in which I was elected to the yellow world, and the other one was from the 16 personalities test, in which I was elected as a campaigner. Now, those skills that fit the personality best in the yellow world is the human connection And with the campaigner notes, that it is that you value deep relationship, meaningful conversations. So those two personalities are now aligned well with one another. And if I look at that with my work experience, I see that it is really valuable for me within the marketing agency job that I do, when I having meetings with clients and that I'm really trying to understand their problem. So for values at work, I think that it's really valuable for me to understand my clients in order to work more efficiently.
And what do you think about your strengths in leadership?
I don't think I'm really fit to lead people because, well, I'm more of a people person that can manage conversations, but I'm not somebody that likes to take control. So in that case, I wouldn't think I would be much of a leader. Within diversity, I would be good in handling diversity within conversations because, well, you can empathize with people from different cultures. So if I would be able to work abroad a lot in my professional life, that would be pretty valuable for me and perhaps for companies.
Okay, and can you tell us a little bit about your purpose in the work environment?
Purpose is a hard one. I don't think I would have a purpose of it right now. My purpose within working life would be that I would be able to manage my own life and that I had create enough money to sustain myself. So no, not a real goal or a purpose in the long term. If I would look at the preferences for the type of organizations, well, I think I would like small teams in which that human relationships are far more valuable than strict rules or governments that are looking at you. So for my expectations, I hope that I get in those types of companies. And for the prior work experiences, well, I've already working in a small work marketing agency right now, so I know that it would fit me. And lastly, my thoughts about 3 companies that I would like to work in. I don't have any specific names for companies because I need to look for smaller ones that I'm not really familiar with right now. But I would look into that sector. So not big companies like working for the government or something like Adidas or Google. Those are already way too big and too strict for me, perhaps.